On August 20th, 2012, inside Crockford's casino in Mayfair, London, a dealer turns a playing card. Phil Ivey does not touch it. He does not mark it. He does not hide anything under the table. The casino approves the request. Hours later, Ivey is winning millions. By the end of 2 days, the number reaches £7.7 million. Then Crockfords does something unusual. It refuses to pay. There is no hidden camera in Ivey's sleeve. No electronic device. No dealer taking cash under the table. The weakness is already sitting in front of everyone, printed on the backs of the cards, and the casino supplied them. The question was no longer whether Phil Ivey had beaten Baccarat. It was whether a casino could call something cheating after approving almost every condition that made it possible. Baccarat is built to look simple. That is part of its strength. At the table there are 2 hands. One is called player, the other is called banker. The names are misleading. A customer can bet on either side. The cards are dealt according to fixed rules. The player does not decide whether to hit. The dealer does not improvise. There is no bluff, no strategic fold, no hidden psychological battle. Once the wager is placed, the system takes control. That makes Punto Banco, the version played at Crockfords, a game designed around chance. And chance is supposed to belong to the casino. Not because the casino knows the next card. It does not. The casino wins because it does not need to know. It only needs the mathematics to remain intact. At Crockfords, the house advantage depended on the type of bet. The Supreme Court later described an edge of 1.24% on one side and 1.06% on the other. Those numbers look tiny. That is the point. Casinos do not need to crush every player. They need thousands of wagers flowing through a system with a small advantage that survives over time. One hand can lose. One table can lose. One night can be terrible. But if the probabilities remain stable, the machine keeps working. This is the casino's real product. Not cards, not chips, not chandeliers. Predictable uncertainty. And that product depends on one assumption. The next card must be unreadable. Phil Ivey was already a professional gambler operating at the highest levels of the game. But the important person sitting beside him at Crockfords was Cheung's son. Son understood something about certain playing cards that most customers would never notice. Their backs could look symmetrical without actually being symmetrical. A repeated design might appear identical from both directions. But manufacturing is physical. Printing shifts. Cutting tolerances exist. Patterns do not always land in exactly the same place. On some cards, one long edge can look slightly different from the other. Normally this means nothing. A card is rotated. The pattern rotates with it. Nobody cares. The value is still hidden. But Sun was not looking at the face. She was looking at orientation. That changes everything. Imagine an object that is supposed to reveal nothing. Then imagine discovering that the object has 2 visually distinguishable directions. The information is still useless if every card points randomly. But if one category of cards consistently points one way, and another category points the opposite way, the back of the card stops being decoration. It becomes a signal. That is edge sorting. And the dangerous part was not simply noticing the pattern. The dangerous part was making the pattern stay organized. That required the casino. At Crockfords, Sun asked the croupier to turn particular cards in a particular manner. The request was presented as superstition. That did not sound especially strange inside a baccarat room. Casino gambling has always made space for ritual. Players have lucky seats, lucky dealers, lucky numbers. They touch cards in specific ways. They ask for small accommodations. Casinos tolerate a great deal when the customer is wagering enough money, especially when the house still believes the mathematics are on its side. So the dealer complied. Certain cards were turned, others were not. Nothing had been added to them. Nothing had been scratched into them. The cards were simply facing different directions. One rotation. That was the weak point. But rotation alone was not enough, because a normal shuffle could destroy the information. Turn part of the deck during handling and the orientations become mixed again. Now the pattern means nothing. So another condition mattered. The cards needed to be shuffled without changing their orientation. Crockfords used a machine shuffler. The machine randomized the order. But according to the Supreme Court's account, it did not rotate the cards. This distinction was microscopic and devastating. The casino believed randomness meant order. Ivey and Son cared about direction. Those are not the same thing. The machine could scramble where every card sat in the deck, while preserving which way every card faced. From the casino's perspective, the deck was random. From Ivey and Son's perspective, part of the deck was labeled, not with ink, with geometry. The same cards also needed to remain in circulation long enough for the orientation to matter. Ivey asked for the same shoe to be reused under certain conditions. Again, the casino agreed. Now the system had all the pieces. Asymmetrical cards, controlled orientation, repeated cards, a shuffle that preserved orientation, and a player who understood what those pieces meant together. Individually, none looked catastrophic. Together, they reversed the information structure of the game. The casino was still dealing random cards, but random no longer meant unknown. The Supreme Court later estimated that properly executed edge sorting could produce a long-term player advantage of about 6.5%. Think about what that means. The casino begins with an edge close to 1%. Then one overlooked physical detail moves the advantage across 0 and keeps going. The casino does not merely lose its edge. The edge changes sides. That is the real heist in this story. Not taking money from a cage, taking probability from the house, and the house helps assemble the mechanism. By the second day at Crockfords, Ivey's winnings had reached $7.7 million. The casino had watched the play. Its staff had dealt the cards. Its equipment had shuffled them. Its employees had approved the requests. Nothing had triggered the kind of immediate intervention you would expect from an obvious cheating operation. The game finished. Ivey expected payment. Crockfords returned his $1 million stake, but the winnings did not arrive. 9 days after the play, the casino told him the game had been compromised. Now the system finally saw the pattern. Too late. Crockfords had to answer a difficult question. What exactly had Ivey done wrong? He had not secretly entered the casino's card room. He had not manufactured the cards. He had not physically marked them. He had not touched them to change their orientation himself. The dealer had done that. The casino had allowed it. The casino had used the shuffler. The casino had reused the cards. And Ivey openly admitted that he had used edge sorting. His argument was essentially that this was advantage play. He had found information available in the casino's own equipment. Then he used it. Crockford saw something very different. It saw a game of pure chance that had been deliberately transformed. The dealer believed the rotations were meaningless. Ivey and Son knew they were not. That difference became the legal battlefield. Ivey sued for the $7.7 million. The dispute moved through the British courts. The High Court ruled against him. Then the Court of Appeal ruled against him. Then the case reached the United Kingdom Supreme Court. By this point, one night at a Baccarat table had become a question much larger than Baccarat. Can something be cheating if the player genuinely does not think he is cheating? And does it matter that the casino willingly approved the actions? In October 2017, 5 Supreme Court justices unanimously dismissed Ivey's appeal. Their reasoning focused on what had happened to the game itself. Punto Banco was supposed to operate as a game of pure chance. Ivey had not merely observed an accidental piece of information and left the system untouched. The court concluded that he had taken positive steps to change the conditions. He used the croupier as an unwitting participant. The dealer believed the rotations were irrelevant. They were actually the mechanism. The Supreme Court treated that intervention as cheating. Whether Ivey personally considered himself dishonest did not save the claim. The $7.7 million remained with Crockfords. On paper, that sounds like the end. The casino identified the exploit. The courts drew a boundary. The house won. But there was another casino, and the numbers were even larger. Months before the Crockfords dispute became public, Ivey and Son had been playing Baccarat at the Borgata in Atlantic City, New Jersey. The setting changed. The weakness did not. In April 2012, Ivey contacted Borgata to arrange high-stakes Baccarat play. The requests were specific: a private playing area, a Mandarin-speaking dealer, Son seated at the table, a particular 8-deck shoe of purple Jamaco cards, and an automatic shuffling device. Borgata accepted the accommodations. That sentence matters, because the American case would later turn on the same contradiction as the British one. The casino controlled the room. The casino controlled the cards. The casino controlled the dealer. The casino controlled the shuffler. Yet the casino did not control what those pieces meant when combined. Son again identified minute differences in the card back pattern. Strategically important cards were turned. The automatic shuffler preserved their orientation. The same deck remained useful, and Ivey could use the leading edge of a card emerging from the shoe as information. The federal court later called this first card knowledge. That phrase sounds almost harmless. It was not. The standard Baccarat structure gave Borgata roughly a 1% mathematical advantage, depending on the bet. The court record described the edge-sorted conditions as producing an estimated advantage for Ivey of about 6.765%. Again, the direction changed. The casino's system had not stopped operating. It was operating perfectly. Cards entered the shuffler. Cards came back randomized. Dealers followed procedure. Bets were accepted. Chips moved. Surveillance watched everything. The failure was deeper. The casino had protected the order of the deck. It had not protected the orientation. The difference was enough. Ivey and Son played at Borgata on 4 occasions in 2012. The Baccarat winnings approached $10 million. The later damages calculation became even larger because money from the Baccarat sessions was used in subsequent casino play. Borgata eventually sought to recover the money. And this time, the legal argument developed differently. Borgata accused Ivey and Son of fraud. That sounds straightforward. The superstition explanation was not the real reason for turning the cards. The casino said it had been deceived, but the federal court did not accept the fraud claim. This is where the case becomes uncomfortable. The court noted that the actual rules of Baccarat did not require Ivey and Son to explain why they wanted certain accommodations. A player could make unusual requests. The casino could say yes, or the casino could say no. The explanation itself was not what made the request permissible. So even though Ivey and Son had not revealed the true purpose of the rotations, the court concluded that Borgata had not established legal fraud. That sounds like a victory for Ivey. It was not, because New Jersey had another layer of rules. The Casino Control Act governed lawful casino gambling in the state, and the federal judge concluded that the edge-sorting arrangement violated provisions dealing with marked cards. Again, no pen touched the deck. No knife scratched an edge. No invisible chemical appeared under a special light. The court took a broader view of what marking meant. If the cards had been deliberately arranged so their backs communicated value to the players who understood the pattern, the function was similar. The cards had become identifiable. That violated the regulatory structure. So Ivey and Son won an important argument. The court said they had not committed fraud, and they lost the case that mattered financially. The court found they had breached their obligation to gamble in compliance with New Jersey casino law. In December 2016, the judge calculated the amount Borgata could recover. Borgata wanted more than simple repayment. It argued that if the games had been played normally, the house advantage would have produced additional expected profit. That calculation pushed its proposed damages above $15 million. The judge rejected that theory. Casino mathematics can describe long-term expectation. It cannot tell a court exactly what would have happened during those particular sessions. A normal Baccarat game can still produce a huge player win. Chance remains chance. So the court chose a simpler remedy. Put both sides back where they were before the unauthorized games. The result was about $10.113 million. That figure included Baccarat-related proceeds and money won later at craps using some of those winnings. The court rejected Borgata's request to recover nearly $250,000 in complimentary goods and services. Even the casino could not reclaim everything. Then the argument widened again. Borgata also pursued Giamacco, the manufacturer of the cards. If a printing asymmetry helped create a multi-million-dollar loss, perhaps the cards themselves were defective. That theory produced one of the strangest numbers in the entire case. Borgata sought damages tied to its enormous losses. A federal judge concluded that the card manufacturer's potential liability was limited to the replacement value of the cards, about $27. Millions had moved across the table. Years of litigation followed, and one branch of the dispute came down to the price of the deck. That is the kind of number a casino never wants to see. Not because $27 is large, because it exposes where responsibility becomes impossible to separate. Was the weakness in the printing? In the dealer procedure? In the shuffle? In the VIP approval process? In the regulations? Or in a casino assumption so basic that nobody thought it needed testing? Borgata had another uncomfortable fact to live with. Its staff saw the play. Its surveillance recorded it. The requests were not hidden. The dealer interactions were visible. Yet the significance was invisible until the pattern was understood. This is what makes edge sorting different from a conventional cheating story. A hidden device creates a clear enemy. A corrupt dealer creates a clear enemy. Marked cards smuggled into a casino create a clear enemy. But here, almost every physical object belonged to the house. The casino provided the table. The casino provided the cards. The casino provided the dealer. The casino provided the shuffler. The casino approved the conditions. The players supplied one thing: interpretation. That makes the moral line difficult. Card counting creates a useful comparison. A skilled blackjack player can observe public information and remember which cards have already appeared. The player has not changed the deck. The information comes from play itself. Casinos may dislike card counters. They may remove them. But the underlying act is observation and calculation. Edge sorting begins with observation too. Then it crosses into something else. The useful pattern does not emerge by itself. Cards have to remain meaningfully oriented. The British court focused heavily on that intervention. The American court reached a similar practical result through different legal reasoning. In Britain, the conduct was cheating. In New Jersey, the federal court rejected fraud but found a breach connected to casino regulations. Two legal systems, two routes, same pressure point. The difference between seeing a flaw and making the system preserve it. For the casinos, this distinction was essential. If simply noticing an imperfect card were enough to invalidate a win, almost any equipment defect could become the player's legal problem. But if a player actively causes the game to preserve and communicate hidden information, the balance changes. That is where the courts drew the line in Ivey's cases. And yet the casino's role never disappears. Crockfords could have denied the requests. Borgata could have denied the requests. The dealers could have been instructed differently. The cards could have been replaced. The orientation could have been disrupted. The game could have stopped. But none of those things happened soon enough, because each individual request looked smaller than the risk it created. That is how strong systems usually fail. Not through one enormous open door. Through several tiny permissions. A dealer turns a card. A deck stays in play. A machine shuffles it. A VIP request gets approved. Surveillance sees nothing obviously wrong. Accounting sees a large win. Only later does someone connect the pieces, and by then the weakness has already become money. The edge sorting cases also exposed a strange conflict at the center of casino gambling. The casino is allowed to design a game around its own mathematical advantage. That advantage is openly built into the rules. Customers know the house expects to win over time. Casinos also use information aggressively. They track play. They monitor betting. They study customer behavior. They protect procedures designed to preserve their edge. An advantage player tries to do the reverse. Find information the casino did not price correctly. Find a rule the institution did not test. Find a physical detail that changes the mathematics. Most of the time, the boundary is clear. Sometimes it is not. Ivey argued that he had stayed on the side of legitimate advantage play. The courts disagreed. But the fact that the dispute reached the highest court in the United Kingdom shows how difficult that boundary was to describe. The story did not end when the cards left the table. Crockfords kept the £7.7 million winnings it had refused to pay. The Supreme Court decision in 2017 ended Ivey's British appeal. In New Jersey, Borgata secured the $10.13 million judgment. Litigation continued. The dispute later moved toward settlement, with reported terms remaining confidential. So the public record gives us court decisions. It gives us numbers. It gives us the mechanism. It does not give us every final financial detail between the parties. That uncertainty almost fits the story. Because Baccarat began as the simplest part. The cards were supposed to be random. The money was supposed to follow probability. The casino was supposed to own the edge. Instead, the argument lasted for years. And the most important object never changed. A playing card. Turn it face up and everyone can see its value. Turn it face down and the casino expects that value to disappear. That expectation was the system. The pattern broke it. Look at the back of the card again. Nothing has been written on it. Nothing has been attached. The design still looks ordinary. That is why it worked. The weak point did not look like a weak point. Crockford saw a deck. Borgata saw a deck. The dealers saw a deck. The shufflers processed a deck. Phil Ivey and Cheung Yin's son saw information. And once they saw it, the casinos were no longer playing the game they thought they were running. The card never changed. Only its meaning did. The pattern was always there.